Once upon a time, in a lush, green forest filled with towering trees and colorful flowers, there lived a curious little rabbit named Oliver. Oliver had the softest white fur, the longest ears, and the most inquisitive eyes. He loved exploring and discovering new things, but what he wanted most of all was to fly. He would gaze up at the birds soaring through the sky and dream of joining them. One bright spring morning, as Oliver was hopping through a meadow, he spotted an old, wise owl perched on a high branch. The owl was known as Professor Hoot, and he was famous for his vast knowledge of the forest and beyond. "Good morning, Professor Hoot," Oliver called out as he approached the wise bird. "Good morning, Oliver," Professor Hoot replied with a twinkle in his eye. "What brings you here today?" Oliver hesitated for a moment, then gathered his courage and said, "Professor Hoot, I want to fly like the birds. Can you teach me how?" Professor Hoot blinked his large, golden eyes in surprise. "Fly, you say? That's quite a challenge for a rabbit. But, since you have such a strong desire, I will help you. However, flying is not as simple as it seems. It requires knowledge, practice, and a lot of courage." Oliver's eyes sparkled with determination. "I'm ready to learn." Professor Hoot nodded thoughtfully. "Very well. First, you must understand the fundamentals of flight. You need to learn about the wind, the wings, and how to balance in the air. Let's start with something basic." He led Oliver to a quiet part of the forest, where the trees formed a natural amphitheater. "The first lesson," Professor Hoot explained, "is about understanding the wind. The wind helps birds glide and soar. You need to learn how to use the wind to your advantage." Professor Hoot showed Oliver how to observe the direction of the wind by watching the swaying leaves and feeling the breeze on his fur. Oliver practiced this for several days, learning to read the wind's patterns. Next, Professor Hoot introduced Oliver to a special contraption he had built, a set of wings made from large leaves and sturdy branches. "These are your training wings," the owl said. "They will help you understand how wings work." Oliver strapped the leafy wings onto his back and practiced jumping from small rocks and hills. At first, he would tumble and roll, but slowly he learned how to balance himself better. As weeks passed, Oliver grew more skilled with the wings, but he still couldn't fly. Professor Hoot saw his frustration and decided it was time for the next step. "We're going to have a special training session," said Professor Hoot. "Today, you'll practice jumping from a higher place." He led Oliver to the top of a gentle hill that overlooked a beautiful meadow. "From here, you'll jump and glide down to the ground. Remember to use the wind and balance yourself." Oliver took a deep breath, and, with a hopeful heart, jumped from the hilltop. He flapped his leafy wings and felt a rush of air lift him slightly. He soared a short distance before landing softly on the grass. He was thrilled. Although it wasn't full flight, it was a step in the right direction. Professor Hoot was proud. "You did very well, Oliver. You've learned to glide, which is an important part of flying." Oliver beamed with joy. "Thank you, Professor Hoot. I couldn't have done it without your help." Days turned into weeks, and Oliver continued to practice. He glided longer distances and felt more confident with each attempt. One day, as he was practicing his gliding, a group of birds flew by and saw him. "Look at that rabbit," one of the birds exclaimed. "He's gliding like we do."